Hey gang, welcome back to another video here at Joe Daddy's Garage. In my previous video, I installed or replaced the hinge pins for the Brooklyn Pony. I did, upper and lower hinge, showed the process, and that video got some great feedback and great responses, so hopefully that helped you. Now in that same video, I mentioned where I was going to mock up or install, test fit, the I Did It steering column for this particular Mustang. I'm not going to do that in this video. The reason for that is there's a gasket that I ordered from CJ Pony Parts, which was on back order, and it's not going to show up this week. So I want to do everything all at once and make sure either whether that gasket's going to work or not, I don't know, but I want to show it and make sure that I show you how it works. So instead of that video, this video, I'm going to do this bracket install. Now this is something small, but it's still important. This is the bracket that I pulled out of the box from the CJ Pony order that I had made. Now, this is for the brake hose for the rear differential. And the Dynacorn pan does not come with this bracket installed at all. Nowhere, not even in a kit. And I believe the reason for that is these pans, they're meant to fit all models. Basically 65. I'm not sure if it's 68 or beyond, but I know that it's designed to fit those cars. So if you go back to a 65, and I'll show more of this in another segment, there was an option for seat belts. So the 65 that I have, that I'm using as a reference at some point, the Stray Pony as I call it, it does not have the seat belts in the rear. So the bracket is different than this bracket. Now I don't even know if this bracket is just their own design or if this is actually what it would look like, because I don't have one to reference. It's gone. Now the Brooklyn Pony is going to have dual exhaust, and with that I welded in those reinforcement plates that go in the rear floor pan area underneath the seat, and that comes into play whenever I go to install this bracket, and I'm going to go into more detail about that. So let's get started and get this bracket installed. If you hear a bulldozer in the background, there's a lot being cleared across the street from me, so that's what that is, but I'm going to keep filming, show you this. I wanted to take a look at this bracket that I'm going to mount on the Pony, and basically that's what I'm looking at. See if I'm just laying on the ground underneath what I call the Stray Pony, which is the 65 that I bought. Let me see if I can get a good angle there. So there's where the bracket mounts, and I realize now there's must have been some rust there because somebody has welded in a patch. I thought I had a good solid car, but it looks like it's going to need some attention. Anyway, there's the bracket, so you can kind of see where it's mounted. The hose goes down through, and it looks like somebody must have replaced that brake line based on the loop there. They didn't want to cut it down and flare it, so I'm just going to assume that's a new line. I know they didn't come that way from the factory, but anyway, that's the bracket. And if you notice, it's at an angle, like the bracket's twisted, and the bracket I have is not. So I'm gonna play with that a little bit. I don't think it needs to be in the exact location. It just needs to do its job and hold the brake hose. So at least now I have an idea where it goes. Now here's something else to consider when mounting this bracket. I installed these reinforcement plates for the muffler mounts or muffler brackets, and basically I have the seatbelt hole there, and just outboard of that is the center hole and then an upper and lower hole that I have not drilled through the floor pan. But that reinforcement plate is meant to support mufflers. There's one on either side for the dual exhaust. So you need to make sure when you're installing that bracket that you're not covering up those areas. So I'm going to do some measuring and try to locate the exact spot where those holes are and mount that bracket away from those. After looking at the other 65 Mustang, I've noticed there's a difference. This floor pan has the brackets for the seat belts, That other car didn't have that. That's interesting. But that said, the bracket that was on the what I call the stray pony, it was at this angle and then kind of turned. So it was a weird looking, shape to it, kind of angled out. If I was down here, I would have to deal with a lot of different things. Like I said, if I envision the exhaust pipe and the bracket, you don't want your brake line close to that stuff, and it may be a conflict. Again, the seatbelt bolt could be a conflict. Can't really go too high on the curve, as it changes dimension. So I think what I'm going to do is go above it. If I was over here, I'd have to deal with this strut rod that's supporting the differential housing. This TCI has this torque tube system. So there's only about, well, for me, 3 fingers width, which is probably about 2 1/4 inches. And at this point, the suspension is hanging off the car. There's no weight on it. So if I was to put the car on the ground and have weight, this might even be a smaller dimension, which I'm sure it would. So considering that, I think I'm going to have to come over here. And that puts me out of the way of the bracket, the exhaust, and I can easily bend this if I need to, because this isn't a 90-degree. So I can bend that however I want to help with the line as it comes around the curve here of a seat pan. And if I had let's say if I took this rod to represent the hard line, it's going to come up anyway and then curve. I think that's going to work fine. And then the hose, of course, will mount and then come back. Now, one odd thing that I'm finding, and I think what's going to have to happen is this differential housing, let me angle up here a little bit. This housing, if you were to use a stock original housing, it would have a bolt hole up on top where you could mount your distribution block or your splitter block. So you could have your hard line or your soft line coming in, and then your 2 hard lines separating to either side. But this one, there's no holes there. There's no, this is a custom built differential housing. And I believe that it's probably going to be mounted on the front. If I turn this around, it's probably going to be simpler to bolt it on to one of these points here. I may have to make a bracket. I don't know if there's one for the kit, but if I put that on, I could have it over here, connect the hose, again avoiding the exhaust brackets and all that sort of thing, but I think it's going to be fine. Now there is a breather up here on top, and I guess you could probably pull that out if you wanted to and mount a bracket to that, but I'm just going to let it go for now. I'm more concerned with just getting, this bracket in place, and that'll take care of the hose mount point. Again, this is a 65 to 66 rear brake hose bracket, and the part number here looks like ST2A051, I believe. Yeah. And this was from CJ Pony Parts. So I'm going to get this welded in place, and then I don't have to worry about this bracket anymore. Now that I've decided where I'm going to put the bracket, I did some prep work. I sanded down the edges a little bit and also sanded off the back side. Now, I may not have had to do this, but I wanted to. And I'm going to spray that with some SEM zinc weld 3 primer. This is 40773. I know I'm not going to be welding through this, but I want to coat this anyway, even though I'm going to be welding on the perimeter. I think the speed of 3 was too high, so I turned it, the heat at 3 was too high, so I turned it down to 2. I'm trying to keep these sparks from hitting me. This is still fighting with me. If you can't tell, I'm trying to look straight up and weld this. That's the nice thing about welds. You know, if you don't get it right, grind it off, start over. It's not like working with wood where you cut off too much material and you're done. So I lowered the car down about a foot, and hopefully that's going to help with my angle of attack here. Let's see. Still not exactly how I want it to look, but I'm fighting with several things here. The space, trying not to block the camera. So I'm just going to stop filming and weld this in and be done with it. Well, it's welded in place. I don't know why I was having so much trouble with that welding properly. I mean, it shouldn't be anything abnormal with the metal or anything like that. It may be that, and I don't know for sure, this primer that I'm using, I think it's the same that I've been using. I ran out and I thought that was the same number. So I don't know if it's this weld through primer or not. This is the first time I've used out of this particular can, and I don't know if that was causing problems. But regardless, it's not going anywhere, and now I can focus on, you know, running the brake line and getting the hose connected and all that sort of thing. So it's just a little bit of a difficult place to weld. You know, basically I'm trying to weld overhead or forcing my hands in awkward shape in a position. So it's in there, and that part's done. That's going to be the end of this video. It's not the video that I wanted to do, however, it's progress. Even though I had some frustration with the welder giving me issues, or whether it was the weld through primer, I don't know. But sometimes you have to take a step back, refocus, and get back in there and take care of it. So keep that in mind when you're doing your projects. If you have a problem, you know, and you get frustrated, step away from it for a while and it'll come to you. You'll figure it out. But again, that's the end of this video, and I want to say thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing. And if you haven't, please do. And I hope that the next video I do will be that I did a steering column, as I mentioned. According to CJ Pony, the gasket that I want to use should be here tomorrow, which is the end of the week. So it'll have to be next week that I work on that project. Now I do want to mention that there will be another Viewers Project video coming out on Sunday. So you want to stay tuned for that and look forward to it. I think it's going to be a pretty good video. So far all of them have been very good, and I'm happy to share them. And I'm looking forward to getting this one out on the channel. So that's it, and until next time, take care of yourselves. And until I get that boot, I don't want to do the video. has not arrived. It's not supposed to show up for another couple of days. Yay, it's raining. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Rain. So, and I think you're gonna like this one too. So stay tuned for that. So as I'm comparing and see if I can't make this look better. It helps if you turn the motor on.